couldn't be happier or luckier to have Tiki Barber as the guest today. I want to bring him right in. Hello, Tiki, and good morning.
What's happening, David? I'm glad that other people get a chance to talk on your show than just you.
It's
Don't they get
so,
tired of listening to you all day?
I mean, I get tired. Coca certainly does. But listen, the opportunity when we saw each other in Cooperstown, it became very clear to me that having you on this show, and I've been lucky enough to have been on your show before, but having you on the show would be so important, especially given the announcements that were made about you. I want to talk about that. But I want to start with the Giants, your former team,
Yeah.
because it occurs to me that the Giants are my team. I grew up actually not a baseball fan, shockingly. It was Knicks and Giants were the loves of my life. It was not really about the Yankees or Mets at all, ironically, given my career. And it's been 8 years, and the Giants have one playoff appearance. That's almost Marlins like. It's almost like I'm
Oh,
running the
wow.
Giants.
Wow. Stop. Don't self-deprecate yourself
I
that
know it's
badly.
so terrible.
Look, the Giants they just haven't had stability for a long time. And I'm talking about in the front office, I'm talking about from the head coaching standpoint, and obviously from a player standpoint. And until you get that solved in any sport, in any organization, whether it be outside of sports or not, you're not going to find success. It's too randomness. You're almost just hoping for things to go right, as opposed to having a plan for how things are going to go right. And I think for the first time in a while, this offseason feels like there's a direction towards a plan. And that's important because I think John Mara and the Tisch family were getting a little fed up with the inconsistency. So it feels different, but it only is going to matter once we get to the regular seasons and we either win games or we lose them.
I'm interested in what you're saying about a direction toward a plan. Having run a team, I never wanted to just be in the direction of a plan. I wanted to be in the plan.
Yes.
And so in football, you say stability, and I'm thinking of a 25 or 26 man roster in baseball, how that would be defined. How exactly are you defining stability on a football team? Is it quarterback, running back?
Well, it's partly quarterback. So when I say direction, it's having an idea of where you're going. I think for the last couple of years, the Giants were all right, let's give Daniel Jones this long-term contract and hope that he figures it out, even though he's kind of having to prove it every single year. Let's go grab these three free agent offensive linemen. They're not really that good. Let's draft a couple guys and just throw them in there and see what happens. And I think this offseason, it specifically changed with Joe Shane, our general manager, in free agency. The first thing he did was go get two big secondary help, Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo. They're young, but they're also veteran and have some experience, and their trajectory is high. And so you started to see the inklings of what the identity of the Giants was going to be. And then you go draft well. You get Abdul Carter in the first round, who's an edge rusher from Penn State. You're bringing draft another D tackle and a couple of other free agents that come in on the defensive line, and it starts to show that the Giants want to do is play old school defense, hit the crap out of people, stop the run, and be impactful in the second area. Now, the reason it's not a plan is until you start executing it, right? It's a plan when you start seeing it on Sunday afternoons. I think the other side of this, meaning the offense, is that they finally got a direction in their quarterback room. Russell Wilson is a journeyman. He's at this point because he's been on four different teams in the last 4 years.
Wow.
Or 5 years, I should say. Then you go get Jameis Winston, who's a great glue guy, a great locker room guy, and then you trade back into the first round and draft Jaxon Dart out of Ole Miss. And it feels like, man, I see what's going to happen 2 years from now. Whereas in the previous couple of years, it was like, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. And so the plan starts to take form this offseason, and it feels enthusiasm starting to permeate around the Giants organization right now.
Tiki, can we go back, please? Because I want to understand the definition of a journeyman. Because I've not listen. I view Russell Wilson as a past his prime quarterback who is a Super Bowl winner
of course.
and had an impactful, good career, and then got overpaid by the Broncos. But I
Well,
journeyman, is that 4 teams in 4 years, or is it 4 teams over a career? How do you judge that?
Well, to me, it's the speed in which he's gone from place to place to place to place. Because he was in Seattle and then he wanted out because he wanted to try to win an MVP, and he goes to Denver to go try to take over. It's a bad situation with Nathaniel Hackett in his rookie year as a head coach slash coordinator. He has his own office away from everybody. It deteriorates really quickly, and the next thing you know, he's the odd man out. Nat Hackett gets fired. Sean Payton comes in. Sean Payton's gonna fix him, but Sean Payton's like, yeah, I can't deal with you, and benches him at the end of the season. And then he goes to Pittsburgh, where he's supposed to be the starter, but he gets hurt. And then Justin Fields is starting, but then he comes in, and the only thing he can do is throw deep balls. And then Mike Tomlin's like, dude, I'm done with you as well. And then he goes to the Giants, where I think he's always wanted to be honest with you, and once free agency became a part of his journey, and it kind of fits him, right? He wants the I don't know, the shine that comes with being in New York. And I think New York, the Giants need a leader like him, someone who's been there, as you said, David, won a Super Bowl, has a ton of experience, will learn from those mistakes, the ones that I was just previously mentioning. He's gotten himself back in great shape, and guys trust and believe in the positivity that he's preaching. And I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but he's been in three different situations in the last 4 years, and to me, that's bouncing around. That's on a journey. He's trying to find himself, or at least re-find himself, because you can't take away his early successes back, in his early days with Seattle, including a Super Bowl champion and just a couple of plays away from a second one.
How long do you get if you're Russell Wilson on the Giants right now and you're running that team? How many weeks does this journey last before the plan that needs to be executed turns out to be directionless? Is it
Yeah.
is it 5 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? Is it how
Here's
does
the
this
thing.
work?
Well, here's the thing. This is why it's exciting, because the directionless won't ever happen. Because if Russell Wilson has a bad start, let's say that, and this could just be because of the schedule. The Giants play a really tough schedule, starting with the Commanders and then the Cowboys, and you have the Chargers, or the Chiefs actually, and then the Chargers, and then you get the Eagles twice in 3 weeks. It just becomes really difficult early. So they could be bad record wise, but it won't mean that Russell Wilson's playing terrible. But let's just say he is, or let's say he gets hurt. And what you were intimating is that they would be kind of rudderless now. But the easy solution or direction is just to throw in the rookie. You throw in Jaxon Dart and let him learn, sometimes what we call the hard way, by losing. Eli did this in his first year. He lost 5 games in a row or 6 games in a row until he eventually started to figure it out. And the game slowed down for him. He won his last game of the season, of the regular season, against the Dallas Cowboys in epic fashion. And it set him on a path towards winning 10 games the next year. And then obviously a few years later, winning a Super Bowl. And so I think even though Russ has the potential to not be the Russ that we remember from his Seattle days, even if he fails, there is a built-in next step, which is Jaxon Dart, who they drafted in the first round. And so that's why I love this plan, because there's a catch-all, right? There is, if all things fall, then there's somewhere else you can go. And that's not something that the Giants have had in previous seasons. If Daniel Jones failed the test that was, are you our quarterback? What were you doing? Right? Who are you going to? You gonna take a flyer on Tommy DeVito, who was exciting, and I like Tommy, and he's an
There were
everyday.
some clicks there. There were
Right,
some
right.
social media
He's,
clicks with him.
I'm telling you, he's awesome. He's a great kid, but I don't think he's the future of the New York Giants from a quarterback standpoint. But that's what the Giants were having to rely upon.
He was at 15 minutes and counting, like very quickly, like in almost 15 minutes. So how important
Right.
is the health of Malik Nabers to Russell Wilson's early season success? Is that toe going to be a thing, or is he fine?
Yeah, he's a football player, David. They're not baseball players like you're used to, where if they have a pinky toe, like ingrown nail, that they're sitting out for a week and asking you as the general manager, hey, man, can I go on the IL for a little bit so I can go chill, maybe go hang with my family in Miami? Football players don't do that, David. I think he's going to be fine. It's going to bother him. It's going to be nagging, but that's part of this game. You're never really healthy. But to answer your first question, it is paramount that he is healthy and has the type of season that he had in his rookie year. And the reason is simple. In football, you got to score. Really, baseball, sport, any sport, you got to score. And scoring is not easy, and it hasn't come easy for the Giants. But when you have a guy who can take the top of a defense, who can generate big plays, get 20 plus yard plays, you more than quadruple your chances of scoring. And without Saquon here last year, and we saw him with the Eagles, the Giants didn't have, other than Malik Nabers, a guy who could go get you 20, 30 plus yards on a play. And so scoring became very difficult. And so we need Malik Nabers to be that player and more. We need Tyrone Tracy to continue to evolve into this runner that we saw last year. And now with Cam Scatterbo in the backfield with him, it feels like they're a pretty dynamic 1-2 punch. We need one of these other wide receivers, whether it's Jalen Hyatt, who's going into his fourth year, or Wan'Dale Robinson, to turn into one of these dynamic players so that you have a 1-2 combination in your receiving room and makes it very difficult to defend. I think Russ, of all his faults and his aging, as we've talked about, he still throws a hell of a deep ball. And so if you can generate events downfield where he'll give you that opportunity, and hopefully it puts the Giants in better positions than they've been in the last couple of years.
You know, the irony is that my background with the Giants, of course, is when they won the two Super Bowls, one with Sims, one with Hostetler,
Right.
over the Broncos, and then the Bills back in '87 and '91, January of those years. And Lawrence Taylor, Leonard Marshall, Van Pelt, like a defense where Everson Walls, a defense where the other team's gonna have a very hard time scoring. It was a different type of football. They've actually changed the rules now, which is an offensive player, it would make it's much more geared to offense. And the irony is that the Giants, you just described as having all these issues scoring, and they've also sort of doubled down. Their defensive line is incredibly strong. They're trying to stop teams from scoring, where it could be argued that doing more scoring may be more important than allowing teams to do less scoring, because the odds are you're going to need to win more shootouts.
Right. That's exactly right. Now, here's the issue is that in the NFL, you have to be able to stop a team. And when you've seen teams that have won Super Bowls, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. Hold on.
Live dogs. What does it mean? Hold on. We're live, right. But what does it mean going crazy? Was he biting you?
Right. No, they see dogs walking outside the front window, and then they start barking, and then they go crazy. And then my other dog starts barking. I have a Saluki who will bark once, and then I have a Dotson who will bark 5,000 times after my Saluki. So it gets crazy.
Very happy for you, Tiki.
But here's the thing, David. When you watch the Super Bowl, why did the Eagles win the Super Bowl? It wasn't because Jalen Hurts was the MVP or Saquon Barkley, who didn't really have a great Super Bowl game. It wasn't really because of their offense, even though they had some big plays. It was because they dominated the Kansas City Chiefs up front defensively. They got home with 4 defenders, which meant that they could sit back and drop 7 into coverage almost every play. There was pressure with the front 4, and so there was no solution for Pat Mahomes. And so getting after the quarterback is so important in the NFL. And the Giants have started to gear their identity towards that. We know Kayvon Thibodeau going into his 4th year is one of those keys. Brian Burns, who they brought over in a trade and signed to a long-term extension, is there. You draft Abdul Carter in the 1st round this year, and he is already looking impactful and impressive. You have Sexy Dexter Lawrence in the middle, Golson you bring in. And they're trying to shore up the front 4 of this defense so that it makes it very difficult for teams to run and to drop back and pass comfortably. And so I think mentioning those 86 and 90 Giants teams, they were built on defense with names that you just forever remember. And that's the idea, right? Is to have guys on that side of the ball that are so impactful and so violent with the way that they attack an offense that you can't forget them. The only way that happens, though, is if you ultimately get to a Super Bowl and make yourself, the ultimate glory. But that's
the plan worked, though. If that happens, did you see Micah Parsons said that Abdul Carter may be the best of all of them?
I
that he may be
mean,
the best Penn State edge rusher. I
I
thought that
mean,
was sort of a funny comment.
well, I mean, it makes you feel good when the guy that comes from behind you is actually better than you because you've kind of grooved the pathway. I was that way for a little bit at Virginia because right after me was Thomas Jones. Now people forgot, how good of an NFL career he had, but he had an unbelievable college career at Virginia, broke all of my records, he played for a decade plus in the NFL as well. And so you feel like this sense of pride when the guy comes from behind you. And I think that's what Micah Parsons is referring to. But I got to tell you, Abdul Carter he's bigger than Micah. He's just as explosive. And given his opportunities in the preseason game last week, he looked amazing. He only had like 4 or 5 snaps, but he looked amazing going up against Deion Dawkins, one of the best left tackles for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. And so you can be enthusiastic about where his career, I think, is going to go.
What does it mean if he had looked bad? How would that have manifested itself? Like his name wasn't called, or he
Yeah,
wasn't getting off the snap as fast.
right.
Like, what does it mean? Like, because that's an amazing. We used to call that in baseball when we'd have a scout run into a game,
Yeah,
high school, college, pro, see one at bat and
I
come
know.
out and write a scouting report. We'd be like, man, you saw one at bat. Like,
Right.
give me a break here. And it sounds like you just did a 5 snap scouting report.
Well, here's the thing. You've seen it all preseason as well. I mean, he looks dominant at times, and he's at the point where he can embarrass you if he really wants to. And it shows up on tape. I think you're right though. You can't overreact to the preseason. It's the preseason. A lot of the veterans that are playing in these games are just like, don't get me hurt, man. I just want to be ready for the regular season.
That's what it's for.
Right. If I get beat, so what? It doesn't mean anything. But the one thing I think you can tell from rookies or young players in the preseason is whether or not they're swimming in it. Like if they understand, the speed and the urgency which you play at this level. And I remember back in my day, there was one guy who I'll never forget, got it immediately. First game, and that was Jeremy Shockey. We played in the Hall of Fame game. He caught a pass on the sideline, could have just ran out of bounds. He stuck his right foot in the ground, turned back in towards the middle of the field, and trucked the safety. And we were like, all right, this guy's going to be good. And you just know. I mean, yeah, of course, it was an overreaction in the preseason, but it proved to be prophetic on what kind of career he's going to have. And I think we as Giant fans, we are seeing that or believing in that from Abdul Carter.
I got some pushback when Shedeur Sanders started for the Browns, and had a good game.
Yeah.
And I was reading on air like the tweets from LeBron and everyone else saying, "Told you so." Like, this is our guy. And I said, "I'll bet you $1. This guy is still 4th on the QB depth chart." Like, you have to understand the way we're looking at things. It's just totally different than the way others are. That's pretty much what you're talking about. Like with Shedeur, let's not overreact.
Yeah,
And have him as like the #1 quarterback all of a
It's the
sudden.
same thing with Jaxon Dart. Jaxon Dart looked amazing. The touchdown pass he threw was an audible, right? It used to be very vocal, or not vocal, but demonstrative when you were calling one of those things, like, oh, check, whatever you're trying to. He just stuck his hand to the side of his pad. Little Jordan Humphrey saw it. Whatever route they were running, I have no idea. They had a man look on the outside. He said, "You know what? Run a fade. I'm going to throw you a fade." Just real subtle veteran type thing. I'm going to throw you a fade. He stood in there. Kubas, the right guard, got beat off the snap, and Jaxon Dart was getting a rush right down his throat. And so he stood right in the pocket, threw this perfect fade to little Jordan Humphrey for his first career touchdown. And it was a veteran play. Right. Some young players, when they get into that situation, they're just going to panic. Right. They're not going to realize, oh, wait, should I throw this fade, or should I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just leave the play on that was called. But he recognized what it was, saw the guard get beat immediately, and easily could have just scrambled. I mean, he probably could have picked up 8 or 9 yards just running the ball, but he stood in the pocket and he knew it was a huge opportunity for him, and he executed it. And so it's subtle. It doesn't mean anything. It's the preseason. He's up against the third string, cornerback over there. So it doesn't matter. But I think what you look for in the preseason is the execution of things like that. and Jaxon Dart had it. Shador Sanders had it. But we knew this because we saw Shador Sanders in Colorado and in Jackson State. He's a gamer. You know what I mean? And so whatever we wanted to say about them in the preseason doesn't matter. It's really what they do when the lights are bright and you get an opportunity to make a play, regardless of who you're playing against.
Tiki, how often does someone approach you and congratulate you on being in the Hall of Fame? Does that happen often?
No, but I do get a lot of, I think it's weird. I think a lot of people are so aware of me not being in the Hall of Fame. And it was because how much fanfare my brother got when he went into the Hall of Fame. And, obviously I was there and I presented him. And most of the conversations I get are, Tiki, you're in the Hall of Fame. You should be a Hall of Famer. And I keep telling them, maybe at some point it'll happen.
Wait, you're telling me that no one goes up to Rondé and says, "Hey, I love your show"?
No, because Rondé doesn't look like me.
Oh,
Rondé has a beard. I'm telling you, David, he has a beard.
But if people are listening to you, Tiki.
True, but he has a beard. He looks different. He's darker than me because he lives in Florida.
He's your identical twin brother. You do know that, right?
I understand, but we do not look identical. I'm telling you,
identical twins say just what you're saying.
But
they say exactly what you're saying.
The thing. So Rondé never got above, I want to say 180 in his career. He's probably not 185 now, right? I played at 210 going to training camp. Now I'm probably, because I still keep lifting, I'm now like 195 pounds. So like physically we don't look alike. Facially, he's a little bit longer, his face, because he came out first and he had to squeeze, and I came out easily. And he's got a beard.
He's a trailblazer.
He was a trailblazer. Exactly right. So I don't think we look alike, to be honest with you, even though people think that as twins, we obviously look alike. But if you've known me for a while, if Rondé walked in the room and I wasn't there, you would know immediately it wasn't me.
But I know you.
But you know me, exactly.
Strangers, I think, would have a different thing. Hey, when you get a handoff, I try to, one thing I love to do in baseball was talk to players about what are they thinking when they're facing 100 and it looks like it's coming at their ear. Like
Right.
how, because I'll never experience that ever. What are you thinking when you get a handoff? And first of all, before I get to that, who do you not want to see when you get the ball and you open your eyes and you look at the gap you're supposed to shoot, and all of a sudden there's blank? Who is it that you said, "Oh Christ, I got to go the other way"?
So I only played this guy a couple of times where it mattered, and obviously it was Ray Lewis. So it would be Ray Lewis because we couldn't block him. Tony Saragusa and Sam Adams were their 2D tackles, and David literally, I'm using the word correctly, there was 700 pounds in the middle of the Ravens defense. So our guards and our centers, they were occupied just trying to move the meat in the middle of the defense, which means nobody could get up to the linebacker. And so Ray Lewis was always coming full speed, and you couldn't block him. So he's always going to be unblocked. But we only saw him a couple of times, including a Super Bowl where they completely embarrassed us. But on a weekly or a yearly basis, it was Jeremiah Trotter, who was a middle linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. We knew each other so well. We knew their defense. He knew our offense, that he could guess where we were heading. And so he would just sell out. And he was heavy. Like, I'm talking thick, lower body, powerful, and just single-minded. I'm smashing into your head. And so Jeremiah Trotter was my nemesis.
So
and
tell me,
especially because I had to block him too. And here I was at 210, 208, and he was 260. Like, I would lose the battle. So I'd make the block, but I'm taking an L making the block.
But tell me what's exactly in your brain, because let's say when you have the ball and here comes Ray Lewis, are you actually thinking, I don't want to get hit, so I'm going to move? Or are you thinking, I'm going to get hit and it's going to hurt? Like, what's exactly that second?
So to your original question, what am I doing when I'm taking the handoff? So let's say we're running a stretch play, which is just like a sprint to the let's call it the C gap, because that's the way most people can understand it. A sprint to the C gap. We ran a lot of that because it allowed me to put my foot in the ground and make cutbacks, or just take it to the edge if I felt like we had leverage onto the outside. And so say we're running a sprint like that, and I'm getting the handoff. I'm trying to keep my body square to the hole that I'm supposed to be going to. But all the time, I'm waiting for usually the guard or whichever one was uncovered. So it's either the guard or the center, whichever one is uncovered. They would sometimes fold over the top. So they'd fold over the offensive blocker. And if they were in front of me and they could make that cutoff block, I'm just going to stay on my path. If they can't get in front of me, I'm just waiting for them to clip the linebacker. You don't really have to block them. Like I always said, you don't have to block him. You don't have to make a solid block. Just disrupt him. Make him think about you as opposed to me. And whichever thing happens. So if he got over the top and was in front of me, I'm staying on my path and I'm running until I get hit. But what I really wanted to happen was I wanted them to not be able to get over the top and just kick out so I can stick my foot and go behind them. And as soon as I was behind them, that's when it was background playground football. You know what I mean? It was, all right, now I'm in no man's land. I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but they also think I'm not supposed to be here. So let's go. And so I loved being as a slasher and a cutback runner because it became backyard football for me. And then I was just running away from contact. I hated contact. I could take it, but I didn't like it. So people would always ask me, what was your secret? I was like, I'm running scared, man. Running scared.
That is a very powerful way to be. It actually can get you an entire career, right. Which, by the way, you have your football career. And we were talking about the fact that you're now in media. Is it longer than you were in football?
Yeah, a long time longer than I was.
Amazing.
In football. I mean, I've been at WFAN, / Audacy, because I've only been on the WFAN side for 3 years, for 5 years longer than I played in the NFL, which is insane to think about. But it's awesome. And this will be my 19th year retired, and I don't feel old.
You don't look old. You look great. I appreciate your time. We're out of it. I would keep you even longer, but you promised me this amount of time. Tiki, thank you very much. Make sure that we'll follow up with you on the Giants to see whether or not they have a direction, whether or not they have a plan, and whether or not it worked. And we'll look to listen to you post game, halftime, and of course, every day from 2 to 6:30 on WFAN. Thank you, Tiki. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. But the only thing is on WFAN, we'll be talking Mets and Yankees. And while they both stink right now.
They do stink. I've been talking about it on Nothing Personal.
I know.
You're not going to have to talk about them through October. That's the good news.
Let's hope we do. Let's hope we do.
See you later.
Thank you.